Warm wishes to you, mighty Jolilae. I am here with for you a story. A very small steam tank had a job near the iron forge, moving things like boxes and cows off of the tracks near the warehouse, and helping people move couches into new apartments. It was a fun job because of the lifting and heavings, but it was not very challenging because the steam tank was very small and did not have a very diversified portfolio of skills. It was pretty much pushing and pulling, and this was it. He was a very good watercolor painter, yes, but this is not something he could make public knowledge at the warehouses because the larger tanks would point and laugh, though they secretly wished they too could paint with water. One morning, the very small steam tank was limbering up to push a crate of orange juices into a box hole when the big bad boss man came in. I am having a very long line of cars filled with wet newspapers and heavy rocks that we need to move from here to some place over a tall and steep mountain. Who is to do it? He said, while chomping on a cigar, which is a nasty habit and also very dangerous to do around crates of things that might catch fire. No way in Joe's, said Burly Ben, the biggest of the steam tanks. That is full of wet newspapers and heavy rocks, and there is no way even I, the mighty Burly Ben, could take that up a very steep and tall mountains. Is crazy talk, said Sammy Strong Tank, the second strongest of the steam tanks. I will make for me a hernia and I am without the insurance. And the big boss man heard many excuses why this thing could not be done, and that maybe it would be a better thing to make the long line of cars full of wet newspapers and heavy rocks into perhaps 2 or 3 more manageable trips. But the big boss man could hear none of these logics over the sound of his smoking, and instead pointed at the very small steam tank. You are to do it, he said. It will probably make you killed, yes, like a rented mule on which I had death insurance so that I can afford to be callous and laissez-faire about the whole thing. I am management, he added, so this is something I can do. But my union, cried the small steam tank. There is to be no more dillying and or dallying. Get to the pulling part. So the very small steam tank backed the ass up and connected with the little bit that hooks onto the other bit. When all was ready for him, he strained and strained and strained, but the line of cars full of very heavy rocks and wet newspapers was like super heavy. You suck, sir, yelled Burly Ben, the steam tank to whom I had referred earlier. You should give up and feel shame. I agree with Burly Ben, heckled Sammy Strong Tank, who had very little original thinking in his head and often just agreed with Burly Ben to feel good about himself. Even though this is costing me money in lost man hours and late fees and perhaps even opens me up to many lawsuits for my boorish behavior, I have to say this is funny to me as well, chortled the big boss man. But the very small steam tank would not giving up. He bit his very small steam teeth and said to himself, I am thinking I am able, I am thinking I am able, I am thinking I am able. And after only 5 to 8 minutes of this, the wheels of the heavy cars began to creak slowly. I am thinking I am able, I am thinking I am able, I am thinking I am able. The line of cars began moving faster and faster, but still very slow, to be quite honest. I am thinking I am able, I am thinking I am able, I am thinking I am able. The mountain stretched out ahead of our small hero, but it seemed so very tall and steep. Deep down inside, even the very small steam tank began to thinking maybe he couldn't. But he could. I am thinking I am able, I am thinking I am able, I am thinking I am able, he told himself, making him feel better. I am thinking I am able, I am thinking I am able, I am thinking I am able. Suddenly, the very small steam tank looked around and saw that he did. Below him was the marshy bit that turns into the wetlands down there, and the hard part of the very tall and steep mountain was behind him. Now all he is having to do is go down. I was knew I could, he cried in happy. I was knew it. And he did. And then he told Burly Ben to get stuffed and that he was mean because he had low self-esteem. And Burly Ben apologized because the little steam tank was right and the wetlands got their valuable cargo of wet newspapers and heavy rocks in time for Arbor Day. The ending. Chuga 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 woo woo chuga.